The mansion was silent except for the sound of footsteps descending the marble staircase. Chief Chukwuemeka Okafor lay motionless on the cold floor of his study, his walking stick just inches from his outstretched hand. Blood pooled beneath his silver hair, spreading slowly across the expensive Persian rug he had bought during his last trip to Dubai. "Is he dead?" a woman's voice whispered from the doorway. "Not yet, but he will be soon. The fall was perfect. Everyone will believe the blind old fool tripped on his own stick." The second voice was colder, more calculated. "Now we just wait." But Chief Okafor wasn't unconscious. Behind his closed eyelids, his mind was racing, his heart breaking into pieces he knew could never be put back together. He had pretended to be blind for 3 months, and now he understood why his instincts had told him to test the people closest to him. The voices belonged to his wife, Adanna, and his nephew, Obinna, the two people he trusted most in this world, the two people who were now planning his death. 3 months earlier, Chief Chukwuemeka Okafor had been sitting in the office of Dr. Amadi, one of Nigeria's most respected ophthalmologists. The news was miraculous. "Chief, the surgery was a complete success," Dr. Amadi said, shaking his hand firmly. "Your vision has been fully restored. You can see perfectly now." Chief Okafor had been blind for 5 years after a terrible car accident that killed his first wife, Ngozi, and left him in darkness. He had built his billion-naira empire in textiles and real estate even while blind, proving that nothing could stop a determined man. 2 years after the accident, his younger brother had introduced him to Adanna, a beautiful woman 30 years his junior who claimed to be a nurse. She had cared for him, married him, and become the center of his world. But as Chief Okafor sat in that doctor's office, looking at his own hands for the first time in 5 years, something whispered in his spirit. Something his late mother used to say: "Chukwuemeka, when God gives you eyes to see, make sure you use them to see the truth." "Doctor," Chief Okafor said slowly, "I want you to keep this recovery completely secret. Tell no one. Not my family, not my staff, no one." Dr. Amadi looked confused. "But Chief, why? This is wonderful news. Your wife will be so happy." "Just trust me, doctor. I need to see something first. I need to see who people really are when they think I cannot see them." The doctor agreed, though he didn't understand. Chief Okafor returned home that evening, still pretending to be blind, still using his walking stick, still asking Adanna to guide him to his room. But now, behind the dark glasses he always wore, his eyes were open, and he was watching everything. The first week revealed small things. Adanna would roll her eyes when she thought he couldn't see. She would text on her phone constantly, smiling at messages, then quickly hiding the screen when he turned toward her. The servants moved differently around him, less respectful, more careless. His driver, Tund, was the only one who remained genuinely kind, helping him with real concern in his eyes. By the second week, Chief Okafor noticed that his nephew Obinna, whom he had raised like a son after his brother died, was visiting the house more often. Always when Chief Okafor was supposedly resting in his room, always staying late into the night. The two would sit in the living room, their voices low, their laughter too comfortable. In the third week he saw them. Through the crack in his study door, he watched Adanna and Obinna embrace in a way that made his blood turn to ice. Her hands on Obinna's face, his lips on her neck. The words they whispered were too low to hear, but their meaning was clear as day. Chief Okafor's heart had shattered that night, but he said nothing. He needed to know everything. How long had this been happening? What were they planning? Were there others involved? So he continued his performance, playing the blind old man while his wife and nephew played him for a fool. He listened to their conversations through doors. He watched them through reflections in windows. He followed them with seeing eyes while they thought he stumbled in darkness. And then on this terrible night he had heard them in his study, going through his documents. He had heard Obinna say, "Once the old man is gone, everything will be ours. The companies, the houses, the accounts in Switzerland. All of it." Adanna had laughed. He trusts you completely. He's already made you a major beneficiary in his will, and as his wife, I get the largest share. We just need him to have an unfortunate accident. That's when Chief Okafor had entered the room, still pretending blindness, asking innocently, "Adanna, my dear, is that you? I thought I heard voices." And that's when Obinna had pushed him. Hard, sending him tumbling backward down the 3 steps into the sunken study, his head striking the corner of his mahogany desk. Now, as he lay on the floor listening to them plan his death, Chief Chukwuemeka Okafor had to make a choice. Reveal that he could see and that he knew everything, or continue playing dead and discover just how far their evil would go. What would you have done in this situation? Would you have confronted them immediately, or would you have waited to see the full depth of their betrayal? Chief Okafor remained perfectly still on the floor, controlling his breathing, keeping his eyes closed. Every muscle in his body wanted to jump up and confront them, to scream at the betrayal, to demand answers. But something deeper, something wiser, told him to wait. "Check his pulse," Adanna whispered urgently. He felt Obinna's fingers on his neck, pressing against his carotid artery. Chief Okafor had learned to control his heartbeat during his years in business, staying calm during the most stressful negotiations. Now, he slowed his breathing even more, making it shallow and irregular. "It's weak," Obinna said. "Very weak, I think. I think he might actually be dying." "Good," Adanna replied, her voice devoid of any emotion. "Call Dr. Oak, not Dr. Amati. Dr. Oak owes us money and will write whatever cause of death we need. Tell him it was a tragic accident. The blind chief tripped and fell." Obinna hesitated. "Auntie Adanna, are you sure about this? This is still my uncle, the man who raised me, who paid for my education, who gave me everything." "And now he's giving us everything else," Adanna snapped. "Don't get weak on me now, Obinna. We've come too far. Besides, look at him. He's 65 years old, blind, and has been lonely since his real wife died. We gave him comfort. We gave him company. We deserve to be compensated for our sacrifice." Chief Okafor felt something die inside him at those words. Sacrifice. Is that what his love, his trust, his generosity had been to them? A sacrifice they endured for money. "Make the call," Adanna commanded. "And Obinna, remember what we discussed. Once this is over, we disappear for a few months. Let the dust settle. Then we come back as the grieving widow and the heartbroken nephew. No one will suspect anything." Obinna pulled out his phone, and Chief Okafor heard him walk away toward the window, speaking in low tones. Adanna stayed close, and he could smell her perfume, the same perfume he had bought her from Paris just 2 months ago. She knelt beside him, and for a moment he thought she might feel some remorse, some guilt, some shred of the love she had claimed to have for him. Instead, she whispered, "Foolish old man, did you really think a woman like me could love someone like you? I was 28 years old, beautiful, with my whole life ahead of me. You were a blind widower who needed a nurse. This was always business, Chukwuemeka. Always." She stood up and walked away, her heels clicking on the marble floor. Chief Okafor's heart wasn't just broken anymore. It was destroyed, pulverized. Every memory of the past 3 years now felt like a lie, a carefully constructed performance designed to steal everything he had built. But beneath the pain, something else was growing. Rage, cold, calculating rage. He waited until he heard them leave the study, still talking in hushed tones about their plan. Then very slowly he opened his eyes. The room was dim, lit only by his desk lamp, but he could see everything clearly. His vision was perfect. Dr. Amati's surgery had been a miracle, but perhaps God had given him back his sight not just to see the world, but to see the truth about the people in it. Chief Okafor stood up slowly, ignoring the throbbing pain in his head. He touched the back of his skull, and his fingers came away with blood, but the wound wasn't as serious as they thought. He had fallen badly, but his thick hair and the Persian rug had cushioned most of the impact. He moved to his desk and sat in his leather chair, the chair from which he had built an empire. Then he picked up his phone and made a call to the one person he knew he could still trust. "Tund," he said quietly when his driver answered. "I need you to come to the house right now. Use the back entrance through the garden. Don't let anyone see you. And Tund, bring your cousin, the one who works with the police commissioner. I need people I can trust, and I need them now." "Chief, are you all right? Your voice sounds." "Just come, Tund, quickly, and tell no one." While he waited, Chief Okafor opened his laptop and began going through his security system. He had cameras installed throughout the house 3 years ago, after some valuable items went missing. Adanna had complained about the cameras, saying they made her feel watched, so he had agreed to keep them turned off in the private areas. But what she didn't know was that the camera in his study had never been turned off. It had been recording everything, every day, every night for 3 years. He pulled up tonight's footage and watched himself enter the room, watched Obinna push him, watched himself fall, heard every word they said. The video was clear, the audio perfect, evidence that could send them both to prison for attempted murder. But Chief Okafor wanted more than prison for them. He wanted them to feel the same betrayal, the same pain, the same destruction they had planned for him. And slowly, as he sat in his study, an idea began to form. 20 minutes later, Tund appeared at the study door with a tall, serious-looking man in plain clothes. "Chief," Tund exclaimed, rushing forward. "You're bleeding, what happened? And you're looking at me, Chief, can you see?" "Yes, Tund, I can see. I've been able to see for 3 months now, and in that time I've seen things that would make a stone weep." Chief Okafor gestured to the other man. "You must be Inspector Chitty." "Yes, sir." Tund said you needed help urgently. "Inspector, what I'm about to show you and tell you stays between us for now. No arrests yet. No official reports. I need your word." Inspector Chitty looked at Tund, who nodded. "Chief Okafor is a good man, cousin. If he needs our help, we should listen." "You have my word, Chief." For the next hour, Chief Okafor showed them the video, told them everything he had witnessed over the past 3 months, and explained the plan that was forming in his mind. Both men listened in growing horror and disbelief. "Chief, this is attempted murder," Inspector Chitty said. "We can arrest them right now." "No," Chief Okafor said firmly. "If we arrest them now, they'll claim it was an accident. They'll get lawyers, maybe even get bail. Adanna will play the devoted wife, Obinna the concerned nephew. Some of it might not stick in court. I need them to go further. I need them to reveal everyone involved in this conspiracy. Because, Inspector, I don't think it's just the two of them. There are too many small things, too many coincidences. Someone else knows about this, maybe even helped plan it." "What are you suggesting, Chief?" Tund asked. Chief Okafor smiled, but it was a smile without warmth. "I'm suggesting that Chief Chukwuemeka Okafor is going to die tonight. At least, that's what everyone will believe. And then we're going to watch very carefully to see what these snakes do when they think they've won." Inspector Chitty leaned forward. "You want to fake your own death?" "Exactly. With your help, Inspector, we can make it official. Death certificate, everything. Meanwhile, I'll be somewhere safe, watching, waiting, gathering evidence. And when I have everything I need, when I know everyone involved and everything they've done, then I'll rise from the dead and bring them all to justice." Tund shook his head in amazement. "Chief, this is like something from a movie." "This is my life, Tund. My life that they tried to steal." Chief Okafor stood up, his determination clear in his eyes. "So tell me, gentlemen, are you willing to help me become a ghost?" Inspector Chitty extended his hand. "I'm in, Chief. These people need to face justice." Tund gripped Chief Okafor's shoulder. "I've served you for 15 years, Chief. I'm not stopping now. Whatever you need, I'm with you." And so, on that night, as Adanna and Obinna waited for Dr. Oak to arrive and declare Chief Chukwuemeka Okafor dead from an accidental fall, the chief himself was preparing for the greatest performance of his life. The performance of being dead while his enemies destroyed themselves. But none of them knew that someone else was watching from the shadows. someone who had their own reasons to want Chief Okafor dead, someone who had been waiting for this moment for 5 long years. The game was far more complicated than anyone realized, and the body count was about to rise. Dr. Oak arrived 30 minutes later, a nervous-looking man in his 50s carrying a black medical bag. Chief Okafor watched from the hidden panel behind his study bookshelf, a secret room he had built years ago for storing important documents. Inspector Chitty had helped him stage the scene perfectly. They had used theatrical blood to make the wound look worse, positioned his body in a more dramatic pose, and even lowered the room temperature to make the corpse feel cold. Through the small gap in the panel, Chief Okafor watched as Dr. Oak knelt beside what appeared to be his dead body. It was actually a specially made dummy that Inspector Chitty had brought from the police training facility, dressed in Chief Okafor's clothes, with a realistic mask covering the face. In the dim lighting, it was convincing enough. "He's gone," Dr. Oak announced, standing up slowly. "Massive head trauma from the fall. Death was likely within minutes." Adanna let out a wail that sounded almost genuine. "My husband! Oh God, my husband!" She collapsed dramatically onto the sofa, her hand over her face. But through her fingers, Chief Okafor could see her eyes. They were dry, not a single tear. Obinna stood frozen, staring at the body. For a moment, Chief Okafor thought he saw genuine guilt flash across his nephew's face. But then Adanna reached out and squeezed Obinna's hand, and whatever conscience he had disappeared. "We need to call the family," Obinna said, his voice shaking slightly. "His children, his brothers, everyone needs to know." "Not yet," Adanna said sharply, then caught herself and softened her tone. I need a moment, just a moment to accept this. Dr. Oak, you'll sign the death certificate, accidental death." Dr. Oak nodded quickly. Yes, accidental fall, very tragic. I'll have the certificate ready by morning. And Mrs. Okafor, about the money I owe you." "Consider it forgiven," Adanna said smoothly. "Thank you for coming so quickly, doctor. Please, let's keep this quiet until morning. I don't want the media vultures descending on us in the middle of the night. Chief Okafor deserves dignity in death." The hypocrisy almost made Chief Okafor step out of his hiding place right then. But he controlled himself, watching as Dr. Oak left nervously, as Adanna immediately dropped her grieving widow act, and as she turned to Obinna with cold calculation in her eyes. "Now the real work begins," she said. "We need to move fast. Tomorrow morning we announce his death. We'll have a quick, private funeral. Muslim tradition will say, even though he was Christian, bury him within 24 hours before anyone can ask too many questions." "What about his children?" Obinna asked. "Kemi and Chitty Jr., they'll want a proper funeral. They'll want to see their father." Adanna waved her hand dismissively. "Those children from his first marriage have barely visited him in years. They're too busy with their own lives in London and America. By the time they get here, he'll be buried. Besides, I'm his legal wife. I make the decisions now." "And his brothers, the rest of the Okafor family? Let them complain. Once the will is read and they see that most of the estate comes to us, they can cry all they want. The lawyers are already on our side. Remember, we paid them well." Chief Okafor's hands clenched into fists, so the conspiracy went deeper than he thought. His lawyers were involved too. How many people had betrayed him? "There's something else we need to discuss," Obinna said hesitantly. "What about Amara?" Adanna's face darkened. "What about her?" "She knows too much, Adanna. She was there that night 5 years ago. She saw everything. What if she talks?" "Amara won't talk. She's too scared. Besides, no one believes a housemaid, especially one we can easily discredit. If she tries anything, we'll say she's bitter because the chief fired her." Chief Okafor's blood ran cold. Amara, his former housemaid, what did she see 5 years ago, and what night were they talking about? "Still," Obinna pressed, "maybe we should take care of her, make sure she can never—" "No more bodies, Obinna," Adanna snapped. One death we can explain as an accident. Two deaths would raise suspicions. Amara is living in some slum in Agegunnel now, barely surviving. She's no threat to us. Chief Okafor's mind was racing. What had happened 5 years ago? That was the year of his accident, the year his first wife Ngozi died. The accident had been investigated and ruled exactly that, an accident. The brakes had failed on their car while they were driving back from their country home. Ngozi had died instantly. He had survived but lost his sight. But now, listening to Adanna and Obinna, a terrible possibility was forming in his mind. What if it hadn't been an accident? What if Ngozi's death had been murder? And what if Amara, his former housemaid, knew the truth? His phone vibrated silently in his pocket. A text from Inspector Chitty, everything recorded. I'm tracking Amara's location now. We'll find her before they do. Adanna suddenly stood up. I'm going to bed. Tomorrow will be exhausting, playing the grieving widow for the cameras. Obinna, you should go home. Come back in the morning with tears in your eyes and shock on your face. We need to make this performance perfect. After Obinna left, Adanna walked to the study one last time. She stood over the dummy, and Chief Okafor watched as she smiled. Actually smiled. Then she bent down and whispered to what she thought was his corpse. You were so easy to fool, old man. Did you know I was the one who arranged your accident 5 years ago? Your precious Ngozi had to die because she was starting to suspect me. Yes, I was already in your life back then. The nurse your brother introduced you to, that was all planned. I've been patient, Chukwuemeka, very patient. And now, finally, everything you built is mine. She reached down and pulled off the wedding ring he always wore, Ngozi's ring that he had kept on his right hand as a memorial. I'll sell this tomorrow, she said casually. Waste of good gold, keeping it for a dead woman. Then she walked out, turning off the lights, leaving the body alone in the darkness. Chief Okafor waited 10 minutes before emerging from his hiding place. His entire body was shaking with rage, grief, and shock. Ngozi. His beautiful, kind, faithful Ngozi. She had been murdered, and this monster, this demon in human form, had killed her and then married him to finish stealing everything. He looked at the dummy on the floor, then at his own hands. He had built his empire with these hands, even while blind. Now, with his sight restored, he would use everything he had to destroy the people who had destroyed his life. His phone rang. Inspector Chitty. Chief, we found Amara. She's living in a small room in Agegunnel with her 6-year-old daughter. Chief, there's something you need to know. The daughter's name is Ngozi. Amara named her after your late wife. Why would she do that? I think you need to come and hear what Amara has to say. She's been carrying a secret for 5 years, and when I told her you were in danger, she broke down. Chief, whatever happened the night of your accident, Amara witnessed it, and she's ready to talk. I'm on my way. Tund is bringing the car around to the back entrance. Inspector, make sure Amara and her daughter are protected. If Adanna even suspects the girl is alive. Already done, Chief. I have 2 officers in plain clothes watching them. Nobody will touch that woman or her child. As Chief Okafor prepared to leave his own home as a ghost, he took one last look at his study. This room had been his sanctuary, his place of peace and decision-making. Now it was a crime scene, the place where his enemies had tried to kill him. But they had made one fatal mistake. They had underestimated him. They thought blindness made him weak, age made him foolish, and trust made him vulnerable. They were about to learn that Chief Chukwuemeka Okafor didn't build a billion-naira empire by being weak, foolish, or naive. He had been a warrior in business, and now he would be a warrior in revenge. The dead don't speak, but they watch, and Chief Okafor was about to become the most dangerous ghost in Lagos. As he slipped out through the garden with Tund, one thought consumed him. What secret had Amara been hiding for 5 years? And how did a housemaid's daughter end up with his dead wife's name? Have you ever discovered that someone you trusted completely was living a double life? How did you handle it? Drop your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe because this story is about to get even more intense. The journey to Agegunnel took 40 minutes through Lagos's late-night traffic. Chief Okafor sat in the back of Tun's personal car, not his usual Mercedes with the personalized plate. He wore a simple shirt and trousers, a cap pulled low over his face, and dark glasses even though it was night. To anyone who might recognize him, he looked like just another ordinary man traveling through the city. But inside, Chief Okafor was far from ordinary. His mind kept replaying Adanna's confession. She had killed Ngozi, his sweet, innocent Ngozi who had loved him for 30 years, who had given him 2 beautiful children, who had stood by him through every struggle as he built his business from nothing. Murdered. And he had been blind, literally and figuratively, to the truth for 5 years. "Chief, we're here," Tun said softly, pulling into a narrow street lined with makeshift buildings. This was Agegunnel, one of Lagos's most crowded slums, where people survived on hope and hard work despite the poverty surrounding them. Chief Okafor had grown up in a place not much better than this, which was why he had always treated his workers with dignity. Clearly, that kindness had meant nothing to some people. Inspector Chitty was waiting outside a small building, speaking quietly with 2 men in civilian clothes. He approached the car quickly. "Chief, she's inside, but I must warn you what she has to say will be difficult to hear. Are you ready?" Chief Okafor nodded. "I've already heard my wife confess to murdering my first wife. I think I can handle whatever else comes." They climbed the narrow staircase to the 3rd floor. The building smelled of cooking oil, sweat, and too many people living in too little space. Inspector Chitty knocked on a battered wooden door, and a woman's trembling voice called out. "Who is it?" "It's Inspector Chitty. You're safe, Amara. I have someone with me who needs to hear your story." The door opened slowly, and Chief Okafor saw a woman in her early 30s, thin and worn down by life, but with eyes that still held intelligence and strength. When she saw him, she gasped and fell to her knees. "Chief Okafor, you're alive. The inspector said you were in danger, but I thought, oh God, I thought I was too late again." "Again?" Chief Okafor asked, helping her to her feet. "Amara, please stand up. You don't need to kneel. I need you to tell me everything. What did you mean by too late again?" Amara's eyes filled with tears. She led them into the small room, where a little girl was sleeping on a thin mattress on the floor. The child was beautiful, with features that made Chief Okafor's heart skip a beat. She looked exactly like his daughter Kemi had looked at that age. "This is Ngozi," Amara whispered. "My daughter. I named her after Madame Ngozi because Madame was the only person who treated me like a human being in that house." She gestured for them to sit on the only 2 chairs in the room while she sat on the edge of the mattress, one hand protectively on her sleeping daughter. "Chief, I worked in your house for 3 years. You and Madame were always kind to me, always fair. But there was someone else in that house who wasn't what she seemed, a woman named Adanna." Chief Okafor leaned forward. "Adanna worked in my house before the accident." "Not officially, sir. She came as a friend of your brother's wife, visiting often. She said she was a nurse, that she was looking for work. But Chief, I saw things. I saw her putting something in Madame Ngozi's tea many times. White powder from a small bottle she kept in her purse. I didn't know what it was then, but Madame started getting sick. Headaches, dizziness, confusion. She went to so many doctors, but no one could find what was wrong." Chief Okafor's hands gripped the armrests of the chair. He remembered. Ngozi had been ill for months before the accident. The doctors had said it was stress, maybe early menopause, possibly high blood pressure. They had run tests, found nothing conclusive. "I wanted to tell you, Chief," Amara continued, tears streaming down her face. "But who would believe a housemaid? And Adanna, she threatened me. She found out I was watching her. One day. She cornered me in the kitchen and told me if I said anything, she would accuse me of stealing from you. She said she had already planted some of Madame's jewelry in my room. I was terrified. I needed this job. My mother was sick, my father dead. I was supporting my whole family. What happened the night of the accident? Inspector Chitty asked gently. Amara took a shaking breath. That night, you and Madam were going to your country home in Ibadan for the weekend. I helped Madam pack. But that morning, I saw Adanna in the garage with your driver, Emeka. You remember Emeka, Chief? The driver you had before Tund. Yes, Emeka. He quit a few months after the accident. Said he couldn't bear to work for me anymore after what happened. He didn't quit, Chief. He was paid to disappear. I saw Adanna give him a bag full of money. I saw them working on your car doing something under it. And I heard Adanna tell him, make sure the brakes fail on the expressway. It has to look like an accident. Both of them need to die. The room went silent except for the sound of Amara's crying. Chief Okafor felt like he couldn't breathe. Both of them. Adanna had wanted both him and Ngozi dead 5 years ago. Why, he asked, his voice barely a whisper. Why did she want us dead? Money, Chief. I heard her talking on the phone once. She was telling someone that you were worth more dead than alive. That your brother had promised her a share of the inheritance if she could make sure you and Madam died without any children around to complicate things. Your children were both abroad studying. The timing was perfect. Chief Okafor stood up abruptly, walked to the small window and stared out at the slum. His brother, his own brother, had been part of this. Uzoma, who he had supported through university, who he had helped establish his own business, who had introduced him to Adanna after Ngozi's death, claiming he wanted to help his blind brother find care and companionship. Your brother is dead now, Chief, Inspector Chitty said quietly. He died 2 years ago from a heart attack, remember? Or maybe it wasn't a heart attack, Chief Okafor said bitterly. Maybe Adanna decided he knew too much, just like she's worried about Amara now. There's more, Chief, Amara said. After the accident, after Madam died and you survived but lost your sight, Adanna came to me. She gave me money, a lot of money for someone like me. She told me to leave Lagos, to never come back, to forget everything I had seen. She said if I ever spoke about that night, she would kill my entire family. But you didn't leave Lagos, Inspector Chitty observed. I tried. I went to my village in Enugu State. But Chief, I couldn't run from my guilt. I should have warned you. I should have done something to stop that accident. Maybe if I had been braver, Madam Ngozi would still be alive. So I came back to Lagos, but I stayed hidden here in Agegunnel where Adanna would never think to look for me. I've been living here for 4 years, working as a hairdresser, raising my daughter and carrying this terrible secret. Chief Okafor turned to face her. Amara, why did you name your daughter Ngozi? Amara's face crumpled with fresh tears. Because Madam was kind to me when no one else was. When I found out I was pregnant, I was raped by my uncle, Chief. That's why I needed the job so desperately. Madam didn't judge me. She helped me, gave me extra money, told me I would be a good mother. When my daughter was born 2 months after Madam died, I named her Ngozi because I wanted my child to grow up with the same kindness and goodness that Madam had. Something broke inside Chief Okafor. This young woman, who had suffered so much, who had lost her job and lived in fear for years, had more integrity in her little finger than all the people he had called family. Amara, he said firmly, you and your daughter are coming with us. Tonight. I'm going to make sure you're both safe and protected. And then, with your testimony, we're going to make sure Adanna and everyone involved in this conspiracy pays for what they did. But Chief, she'll kill me if she finds out I'm talking to you. She thinks I'm dead, Amara. As far as the world knows, Chief Chukwuemeka Okafor died tonight from a fall in his study. That gives us time to gather all the evidence we need, to find everyone involved, and to build a case so strong that none of them can escape justice. Inspector Chitty nodded. I have a safe house in Lekki, very secure, very private. You and your daughter will stay there under police protection. Chief Okafor will be there too and will plan our next moves. Amara looked at her sleeping daughter, then back at Chief Okafor. Will you really make them pay for what they did to Madam? Will there truly be justice? I promise you, Chief Okafor said, his voice hard as steel. Before I'm done, everyone who played a part in my wife's murder will face justice. Not just legal justice, but the kind of justice that makes them understand the full weight of what they've done. As they prepared to leave with Amara and little Ngozi, Chief Okafor's phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. I know you're alive. We need to talk. I have information about Adanna that will change everything. Meet me tomorrow at the old textile factory. Come alone. A friend of your late wife. Chief Okafor showed the message to Inspector Chitty, who frowned deeply. This could be a trap, Chief, or it could be someone else who knows the truth. Either way, I have to go. If there's even a chance that someone else has evidence about Ngozi's murder, I need to hear it. As they drove away from Agegunnel with Amara and her daughter, Chief Okafor looked back at the slum where this broken young woman had hidden for years, carrying a secret that could have saved him from years of manipulation. Tomorrow, he would meet this mysterious person at his old textile factory, the place where he had started his business 40 years ago. Tomorrow, more secrets would be revealed. But tonight, at least, he had saved 2 innocent lives and learned the terrible truth about his brother's betrayal. The game was getting more complex, but Chief Okafor was ready. He had been blind for 5 years. Now, with his sight restored, he was seeing everything clearly. And what he saw was a web of betrayal so vast and so deep that burning it all down might be the only way to find justice. But in the darkness of Lagos night, other players were making their own moves. Adanna was already calling her lawyers, already planning how to access Chief Okafor's accounts, already thinking she had won. And somewhere in the city, the person who had sent that mysterious message was watching, waiting, holding secrets that would shake the very foundation of everything Chief Okafor thought he knew. The next morning, Chief Okafor woke up in the safe house in Lekki, a modest but secure apartment that Inspector Chitty had arranged. Through the window, he could see the Lagos skyline, the city where he had built his empire and lost everything that truly mattered. His phone was already flooded with missed calls and messages, but he couldn't answer any of them. Chief Chukwuemeka Okafor was dead, and the dead don't answer phones. Tund knocked softly on the door. Chief, the news has spread. It's all over the radio and television. Your death is the top story on every station. Chief Okafor turned on the television and saw his own face staring back at him. The headline read, Business mogul Chief Chukwuemeka Okafor dies in tragic home accident. The news anchor spoke solemnly about his achievements, his philanthropy, and his tragic blindness. Then the camera cut to Adanna, dressed in black, her face covered with a veil, being supported by Obinna as they left the house. My husband was everything to me, Adanna told the reporters, her voice breaking perfectly. He never let his blindness stop him from being a great man. Last night he fell in his study. I found him, and it was too late. My heart is shattered. Chief Okafor's jaw clenched as he watched her performance. She was good, he had to admit. Oscar-worthy. The tears looked real, the grief appeared genuine. If he hadn't heard her confession with his own ears, even he might have believed her. Your children are flying in from London and America, Tund reported. They'll arrive this evening. Kemi has been calling everyone, demanding to know why the funeral is being rushed. She's threatening to sue Adanna for not waiting. Good, Chief Okafor said. Kemi always had her mother's fire. She won't let Adanna bury me without a fight. Inspector Chitty entered the room with Amara, who looked better after a night of rest and safety. Little Ngozi was eating breakfast in the kitchen, under the watchful eye of a female police officer. Chief, we need to talk about today's meeting at the textile factory. Inspector Chitty said, I still think it's dangerous. We don't know who sent that message. Which is exactly why I need to go. Someone out there knows something about Ngozi's death. Maybe someone who worked with Adanna, maybe someone who has evidence we don't have yet. I can't ignore this. Then at least let me send officers to secure the perimeter and wear a wire. If anything goes wrong, we'll be close enough to help." Chief Okafor agreed, and for the next hour they planned the meeting carefully. The old textile factory was in Ikja, abandoned for 10 years since Chief Okafor had moved his operations to a larger, modern facility. It was the perfect place for a secret meeting, isolated, familiar to him, and easy to monitor. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Tun drove Chief Okafor to the factory. The building looked exactly as he remembered it, though now covered in dust and neglect. The sign that once read Okafor Textiles Building Nigeria's Future was faded and hanging by one corner. "Wait here," Chief Okafor told Tund. "Keep the engine running. If I'm not out in 30 minutes, drive away and call Inspector Chitty." "Chief, I don't like this." "Neither do I, but we need answers." Chief Okafor entered the factory through the main door, which creaked loudly. Inside, the vast space was empty except for old machinery and scattered fabric scraps. Sunlight streamed through broken windows, creating patterns on the dusty floor. He walked toward the center of the factory floor, his footsteps echoing in the silence. "Chief Okafor," a woman's voice called from the shadows. "Or should I say, the ghost of Chief Okafor." He spun around and saw a figure emerge from behind one of the old machines. As she stepped into the light, Chief Okafor's breath caught in his throat. She was in her early 50s, elegant despite her simple dress, with features that seemed hauntingly familiar. "Who are you?" he demanded. "My name is Chidinma. I was your wife Ngozi's younger sister." Chief Okafor stared at her in shock. "Ngozi never mentioned having a sister. She told me she was an only child." "She thought I was dead," Chidinma said sadly. "Our parents told her I died when I was 15 after I got pregnant and disgraced the family. They sent me away to a convent and Ngozi was told I had died in childbirth. But I didn't die, Chief. I survived, had my baby, and eventually left the convent. I've been living in Ghana for the past 30 years. "Then how do you know about Adanna? How did you know I'm alive?" Chidinma moved closer, and Chief Okafor could now see the resemblance to Ngozi. The same eyes, the same gentle curve of the mouth, the same sadness he remembered from his late wife's face in her final months. "5 years ago, I came to Nigeria to find my sister. I had finally saved enough money and built a life for myself. I wanted to reunite with Ngozi to explain what really happened. But when I arrived in Lagos and started asking questions, I learned that she had just died in a car accident. I was devastated. I had waited too long." "So you stayed in Lagos?" "No, I went back to Ghana, but something bothered me about the accident. The newspapers said the brakes failed, but Ngozi was careful about car maintenance. I knew her, so I hired a private investigator to look into it. Chief Okafor, what he found was terrifying. He discovered that your former driver, Emeka, had fled to Togo with a large sum of money just days after the accident. He tracked Emeka down and convinced him to talk." Chidinma pulled out a folder from her bag and handed it to Chief Okafor. Inside were photographs of Emeka, looking worn and guilty, along with a signed confession detailing exactly how he had tampered with the brakes, how much Adanna had paid him, and how your brother Uzoma had helped plan everything. "This is incredible," Chief Okafor breathed. "This is evidence that could—" "There's more," Chidinma interrupted. "After my investigator got this confession, Emeka was found dead, drowned in a river in Togo. The local police said it was suicide, but I know it was murder. Someone found out he had talked and they silenced him." "Adanna," Chief Okafor said grimly. "Probably. I've been gathering evidence for 5 years, Chief. I've tracked money trails, interviewed people who worked with Adanna, uncovered her past. She's not who she claims to be. Her real name is Ada Nwasu. She's from Anambra State and she has a history. She was involved in 2 other relationships with wealthy older men. Both men died under suspicious circumstances. Both times she inherited money before disappearing." Chief Okafor felt sick. He had married a serial killer, a black widow who made a living marrying and murdering wealthy men. Why didn't you go to the police with this evidence? Because I knew they wouldn't believe me. I'm a woman who supposedly died 40 years ago with no legal identity in Nigeria anymore. Who would believe me? And Adanna is smart. She covers her tracks well. That's why when I heard on the news this morning that you had died, I knew she had struck again. But then my sources, I have people watching her, told me that your body was removed from your house very quietly, very quickly, with the help of a police inspector. That's not standard procedure. So I took a chance and sent you that message, betting that you were smarter than her other victims. How did you get my number? I've been watching over you for 5 years, Chief, trying to protect my sister's widower. I know more about your life than you might think. I knew about Obinna's betrayal 6 months ago. I knew Adanna was planning something. I just didn't know when or how. I'm sorry I couldn't warn you sooner. Chief Okafor looked at this woman, his wife's sister who had been watching over him like a guardian angel. Chidinma, I need you to work with us. Inspector Chidi is a good man. With your evidence and ours combined, we can destroy Adanna and everyone working with her. That's why I'm here. But Chief, there's something else you need to know. Something that will hurt, but you must hear it. After everything I've learned in the past 24 hours, I don't think anything can hurt more. Chidinma's face filled with sorrow. Chief, Adanna didn't just murder Ngozi. She's been systematically destroying your business from the inside. She's been embezzling money for years, setting up shell companies in your name, creating debts you don't know about. When your children arrive to claim their inheritance, they're going to discover that most of your wealth is gone. She's been stealing from you for 3 years and she's moved most of it offshore. Chief Okafor felt the world tilt beneath him. His businesses, the empire he had built over 40 years, gone. How much? He asked hoarsely. My investigator estimates she's stolen about 600 million naira, maybe more. She's been very careful, very clever. Small amounts that wouldn't raise red flags, always with forged signatures, always with fake authorizations. 600 million naira, more than half his liquid assets. Chief Okafor sat down heavily on an old crate, his head in his hands. Adanna hadn't just killed his wife and tried to kill him. She had been systematically destroying everything he had built, stealing his legacy, robbing his children of their inheritance. There's one more thing, Chidinma said gently. Adanna is pregnant. Chief Okafor's head snapped up. What? She's 3 months pregnant. She announced it this morning to your family, claiming you didn't know yet that she was waiting to surprise you. Now she's the grieving widow carrying the dead chief's child. In Nigerian law, that child will have inheritance rights. She's made sure she'll control your estate for at least 18 more years while raising your child. That child isn't mine, Chief Okafor said flatly. I'm sterile. After Ngozi and I had our 2 children, I had a vasectomy. We decided 2 children were enough. That child is Obinna's. Chidinma smiled grimly. That's what I suspected, which means we can prove she's a liar in one more way. But Chief, we need to be strategic. We can't just expose her now. She's too smart. She has lawyers, she has money, she has people in powerful positions who owe her favors. If we move too quickly, she'll escape and she'll take whatever money is left. So what do you suggest? We let her think she's won. We let her bury you, we let her access the accounts, we let her make her moves. And while she does, we gather every piece of evidence, we track every transaction, we identify every person involved in her conspiracy. Then, when she feels completely safe and completely victorious, we strike. We bring her down so completely that she'll never get up again. Chief Okafor stood up, his resolve hardening. Let's go meet Inspector Chidi. It's time to expand our team. As they walked out of the factory together, Chief Okafor realized that his mission had grown. It wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about justice for Ngozi, protection for his children's inheritance, and making sure that Adanna could never hurt another person again. But what neither of them knew was that Obinna, feeling increasingly guilty and afraid, had started making his own plans. Plans that would either save him or doom them all. And in his desperation, he was about to make a decision that would change everything. The funeral was scheduled for tomorrow. The reading of the will would come the day after. And somewhere in Lagos, a desperate man was about to do something that would force everyone's hand. What do you think Chief Okafor should do first? Go after the money or expose Adanna's pregnancy lie? And have you ever had to be strategic about seeking justice instead of acting on emotion? Sometimes patience is the hardest part of getting revenge. Share your thoughts below and make sure you're subscribed because the next chapter is where everything explodes. The funeral of Chief Chukwuemeka Okafor was held the next day at his family compound in Onitsha, Anambra State. Despite Adanna's attempts to keep it small and quick, word had spread throughout Nigeria's business community, and hundreds of people arrived to pay their respects. Chief Okafor watched it all from a car parked half a kilometer away, using binoculars, while Inspector Chitty's officers recorded everything with hidden cameras. The coffin, empty except for weights to give it the right heaviness, was carried by 6 pallbearers. Chief Okafor recognized his business partners, his employees, and members of his extended family, all wearing black, all looking genuinely sorrowful. It was strange watching your own funeral, seeing who cried real tears and who merely performed grief. His daughter Kemi had arrived from London the night before, and she looked devastated, her face swollen from crying. His son, Chitty Jr., had flown in from Atlanta and stood beside his sister, his jaw tight with barely controlled emotion. They had both been close to their father, and their pain was real. Chief Okafor's heart ached watching them suffer, knowing he couldn't reveal himself yet. Not yet. "This is torture," he murmured to Inspector Chitty, who sat beside him in the car. "Watching my children cry for me when I'm alive." "It won't be much longer, Chief. Once we have all the evidence, once we've identified everyone in the conspiracy, you can reveal yourself. Your children will understand why you had to do this." Beside the grave, Adanna stood dressed in an elaborate black lace outfit, her pregnant belly now visible beneath the fabric. She leaned heavily on Obinna, who looked pale and sick, as if he hadn't slept. Chief Okafor focused the binoculars on his nephew's face and saw something he hadn't expected: genuine remorse. Obinna's eyes were red, his hands shaking, and he kept looking away from the coffin as if he couldn't bear to watch. "Obinna is breaking," Chief Okafor observed. "Look at him, he's falling apart." Inspector Chitty nodded. "Guilt is a powerful thing. Some people can't live with what they've done. That might work in our favor." After the burial, everyone gathered at the family house for the traditional wake. Chief Okafor and his team moved to a new location, a rented apartment nearby where they had set up surveillance equipment. They had placed listening devices in several rooms of the house, and now they could hear everything. Kemi's voice came through the speakers first, sharp and angry. "Adanna, I need to speak with you privately. Now." There was the sound of doors closing, then Kemi spoke again. "I don't believe my father's death was an accident. He was careful, even blind. And this rushed funeral, you didn't even wait for proper investigations. Why?" "Kemi, I understand you're grieving," Adanna replied smoothly, "but your father fell. It was a tragic accident. The doctor confirmed it. The police found no signs of foul play." "Which doctor?" "Because I called Dr. Amadi, my father's regular physician, and he said you never contacted him. You used some Dr. Oak that none of us have ever heard of. Why?" "Dr. Oak is a family friend. He was available quickly." "Kemi, please, this is already so painful. Don't make it worse with conspiracy theories." "Conspiracy theories? You've been married to my father for 3 years and suddenly he's dead and you're pregnant, and you're rushing to bury him before anyone can ask questions. I'm not stupid, Adanna. I'm a lawyer in London, and I know when something doesn't add up." "Are you accusing me of something?" Adanna's voice turned cold. "I'm saying I want a full autopsy. I'm saying I want the police to investigate properly. And I'm saying that until I'm satisfied about how my father died, you won't see a single naira of his money." There was a long silence, then Adanna laughed. "Dear Kemi, you forget that I was your father's wife, his legal wife. In Nigerian law, the wife's claim supersedes the children's in many cases, and with his unborn child in my womb, my position is even stronger. But please, demand all the investigations you want. You'll find nothing because there's nothing to find." "We'll see about that," Kemi snapped, and then there was the sound of a door slamming. Chief Okafor smiled despite the pain of hearing his daughter's anguish. "That's my Kemi. She's not giving up." Another conversation began in a different room, Obinna's voice speaking to someone on the phone. "I can't do this anymore. I can't sleep. I can't eat. Every time I close my eyes, I see Uncle Chukwuemeka falling. I see his blood on the floor." A male voice responded, unfamiliar. "Obinna, you need to hold yourself together. You're going to blow everything if you fall apart now." "Who is that?" Chief Okafor asked. Inspector Chidi was already working his laptop. "Tracing the call now, it's coming from Lagos, Victoria Island area." Obinna continued, "Maybe we should just confess. Maybe if we tell the truth, they'll be lenient. I can't live like this, carrying this guilt." "Don't be stupid," the other voice hissed. "You confess, you go to prison for attempted murder. Adanna goes to prison, I go to prison. We all go down. Is that what you want? Your uncle is dead. It's done. There's no bringing him back. All we can do now is stick to the plan and move forward." But his children are asking questions. Kemi wants an autopsy. What if they find? "There's nothing to find. The body was prepared properly. Everything looks like an accident. You just need to play the grieving nephew and keep your mouth shut." The call ended and Chief Okafor looked at Inspector Chidi. "There's someone else. Someone we haven't identified yet. Did you get a trace?" "Still working on it. But Chief, whoever that was, they were involved in preparing your body. They must have known it wasn't real, which means they're either a mortician or Dr. Oak wasn't the only doctor involved," Chief Okafor finished. "Find that number. Find out who Obinna was talking to." For the next several hours, they listened to conversations, watched people come and go, and gathered more pieces of the puzzle. Chidinma arrived at the safe house in the evening with more documents from her investigator. "I've tracked Adanna's shell companies," she said, spreading papers across the table. "She's been moving money through 5 different businesses, all registered offshore. The Cayman Islands, Panama, Dubai. She's been planning this for years, Chief, long before she even married you." "How long?" "At least 7 years, which means she was planning Ngozi's death for 2 years before it happened. This wasn't a spontaneous crime. This was a long-term operation." Chief Okafor felt cold fury settle in his chest. 7 years. Adanna had spent 7 years planning to destroy his family, steal his wealth, and walk away rich. Tund entered the room, his face grim. "Chief, you need to hear this. I just spoke with one of the old security guards from your house. He remembered something strange from 5 years ago, just before Madam Ngozi's accident. He saw Adanna and your brother Uzoma meeting secretly in a hotel in Ikja. He didn't think much of it at the time, but now it confirms they were working together," Inspector Chidi said. "Your brother, your wife, your nephew, and at least one other person we haven't identified yet. This conspiracy goes deep." Suddenly, one of the surveillance monitors showed Obinna leaving the family house, walking quickly toward his car. He looked panicked, constantly checking over his shoulder. "Follow him," Chief Okafor ordered. "He's about to do something desperate." 2 of Inspector Chidi's officers, already stationed nearby, discreetly followed Obinna's car through Onitsha's streets. The surveillance team tracked him to a small Catholic church on the outskirts of town. Obinna sat in his car for 10 minutes before finally getting out and entering the church. Through a camera hidden in one officer's glasses, they watched as Obinna approached the confessional booth and knelt down. "Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned." Obinna's voice came through clearly. "I have. I have done something terrible. I helped murder my uncle. No, not murder exactly. We tried to kill him and I thought we had succeeded. But Father, I can't live with this guilt. It's eating me alive. Every time I see his children crying, every time I remember how good he was to me, how he raised me like a son. Father, what do I do? How do I make this right?" The priest's voice was gentle but firm. "My son, if you have committed a crime, confession to God must be accompanied by confession to the authorities. You must turn yourself in. You must face justice." "But they'll send me to prison. My life will be over." "Your life is already over if you continue living with this sin. True redemption requires true repentance, and true repentance requires accepting the consequences of your actions. God will forgive you, but earthly justice must also be served." Obinna was crying now, his shoulders shaking. "I'm scared, Father. I'm so scared." "Perfect love casts out fear, my son. Trust in God's mercy, but also trust in the justice system. Turn yourself in. Tell the truth. It's the only way you'll ever find peace." After leaving the church, Obinna sat in his car for another 20 minutes. Then he pulled out his phone and made a call. "Kemi, it's Obinna. I need to talk to you about your father's death. Can we meet somewhere private? There's something you need to know." Chief Okafor's heart raced. This was it. Obinna was about to break, but would he tell Kemi everything, or would Adanna find out first and stop him? "Inspector, we need to protect Obinna now," Chief Okafor said urgently. "If Adanna finds out he's about to confess, she'll have him killed. We can't let that happen. Despite what he did, he's still my nephew, and he deserves a chance at redemption." Inspector Chitty immediately dispatched officers to follow Obinna. But as they watched the surveillance monitors, they saw something that made everyone's blood run cold. A black SUV with tinted windows was also following Obinna's car. It had been parked near the church, waiting, and now it was trailing him through the darkening streets of Onitsha. "That's not one of our vehicles," Inspector Chitty said. "Someone else is watching Obinna." "Adanna must have had him followed," Chidinma said. "She doesn't trust him. She's been waiting for him to break." The black SUV suddenly accelerated, pulling alongside Obinna's car. Chief Okafor watched in horror as the SUV swerved sharply, forcing Obinna's vehicle off the road. Obinna's car crashed into a roadside ditch, flipping once before coming to rest on its side. Go now," Chief Okafor shouted. Inspector Chitty's officers raced toward the accident scene, but the black SUV had already stopped. Two men got out, wearing masks, and approached Obinna's overturned car. One of them pulled out a gun. "No." Chief Okafor watched helplessly from the monitor as the armed man aimed at Obinna, who was crawling out of the wreckage, bleeding and dazed. But before the shot could be fired, Inspector Chitty's officers arrived, sirens blaring, guns drawn. The two masked men ran back to their SUV and sped away, disappearing into the night. Obinna was pulled from the wreckage, injured but alive. As the paramedics worked on him, he kept repeating the same words over and over. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Uncle, I'm so sorry." Chief Okafor closed his eyes, tears running down his face. His nephew, corrupted by greed and manipulation, had been willing to kill him. But now that same nephew was consumed by guilt and remorse, nearly killed himself by the woman who had seduced him into evil. "Get him to a hospital," Chief Okafor said, "and make sure he's under 24-hour police protection. When he's recovered enough, I want to talk to him, face to face." "Chief," Inspector Chitty said quietly, "Adanna just tried to have Obinna killed. She's eliminating loose ends. This means she knows time is running out. She's going to move fast now, try to grab whatever money she can and disappear." "Then we move faster," Chief Okafor replied. "Tomorrow is the reading of the will. That's when she'll discover that I was smarter than she thought, and that's when we spring the trap." But none of them knew that Adanna had one final card to play. a card so devastating that it would threaten everything they had planned. Because Adanna hadn't survived this long by being careless. She had backup plans, emergency exits, and one more terrible secret that would shake the very foundation of Chief Okafor's family. The war was about to reach its climax, and before it was over, more blood would be spilled, more secrets revealed, and the true depths of Adanna's evil would finally be exposed for all to see. The reading of Chief Chukwuemeka Okafor's will took place at the law firm of Okoro and Associates in Victoria Island, Lagos. The conference room was filled with family members, business partners, and concerned parties. Adanna sat at the head of the table, dressed in black, one hand resting on her pregnant belly, the picture of a grieving widow. Beside her was her lawyer, a sharp-faced man named Barrister Emeka Okonkwo. Kemi and Chidi Jr. sat on the opposite side, both looking exhausted and grief-stricken. They had flown back to Lagos that morning, still demanding answers about their father's death, still unconvinced by the official story. What none of them knew was that Chief Chukwuemeka Okafor was watching everything from a hidden camera installed in the conference room. He sat in Inspector Chidi's office 3 floors below, surrounded by police officers, Chidinma, Amara, and Tund. The trap was set. Now they just had to wait for Adanna to walk into it. Chief Barrister Okoro, the senior partner who had handled Chief Okafor's legal affairs for 30 years, stood at the head of the table with a thick folder in his hands. He was a man in his 70s, with gray hair and sharp, intelligent eyes. "Before we begin," Barrister Okoro said, "I must inform everyone that this will was updated 6 months ago. Chief Okafor came to me personally and made significant changes to his estate planning." Adanna's eyes narrowed slightly, but she said nothing. "The will is quite detailed, so I'll summarize the major provisions. First, to his children, Kemi and Chidi Jr., Chief Okafor leaves his textile businesses, his real estate holdings in Abuja and Port Harcourt, and 50% of his liquid assets, to be divided equally between them." Kemi and Chidi nodded, tears in their eyes. To his nephew, Obinna Okafor, Barrister Okoro paused, looking around. "Is Obinna not here?" "He was in a car accident last night," Adanna said quickly. "He's in the hospital recovering. I'll make sure he receives whatever my husband left for him." "I see. Well, to Obinna, Chief Okafor leaves the sum of 10 million naira and a scholarship fund for his future children's education." 10 million naira was generous, but it was nothing compared to the hundreds of millions Obinna had expected. In the surveillance room, Chief Okafor smiled grimly. He had changed that provision 6 months ago, after his restored sight had shown him how often Obinna visited Adanna. "And to my wife, Adanna Okafor," Barrister Okoro continued, "Chief Okafor leaves his primary residence in Ikoyi, a monthly allowance of 500,000 naira for life, and 20% of his liquid assets." Adanna's face remained calm, but her knuckles turned white as she gripped the table. 20%, that's all. I'm his wife. I'm carrying his child. According to Nigerian law, I'm entitled to much more than that." "Actually," Barrister Okoro said calmly, "Chief Okafor included a clause that specifically addresses that concern. He states in the will that if you contest these provisions or claim a larger share, you forfeit everything except the legally mandated minimum, which would be significantly less than what he's offering now." "This is ridiculous," Adanna's lawyer stood up. "My client is pregnant with Chief Okafor's child. That child has inheritance rights that supersede this will. We'll be challenging this in court." "You're welcome to try," Barrister Okoro replied. "But I should mention that Chief Okafor also included medical records in this file. Records showing that he had a vasectomy 28 years ago. Records confirming that he was medically incapable of fathering children. So any child you're carrying, Mrs. Okafor, cannot possibly be his." The room erupted in shocked gasps and murmurs. Adanna's face went pale, then red with rage. "That's impossible. The medical records must be fake. My husband never told me about any vasectomy. The records are certified by Dr. Amadi, who has been Chief Okafor's physician for 35 years. They're completely legitimate, which means, Mrs. Okafor, that you've committed fraud. You've lied about the paternity of your child to strengthen your claim to the estate. Kemi stood up, her voice shaking with fury. I knew it. I knew something was wrong. You killed my father, didn't you? You killed him and you're trying to steal everything he built. How dare you, Adanna shouted back. Your father fell, it was an accident, I loved him. Loved him? You're pregnant with another man's child. How is that love? Before the situation could escalate further, the conference room doors burst open. Inspector Chidi strode in, flanked by 6 police officers in uniform. Adanna Okafor, also known as Ada Nwasu, Inspector Chidi announced, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder, fraud, and embezzlement. You have the right to remain silent. Adanna leaped to her feet, backing away. This is harassment. You have no evidence. My lawyer will. We have plenty of evidence, Inspector Chidi said calmly. He nodded to one of his officers, who set up a laptop on the conference table and pressed play. The video showed Adanna and Obinna in Chief Okafor's study, their conversation crystal clear. Once the old man is gone, everything will be ours. Obinna's voice filled the room. Then Adanna's response. He trusts you completely. We just need him to have an unfortunate accident. The room watched in stunned silence as the video showed Obinna pushing Chief Okafor, showed him falling, showed the 2 conspirators planning his death. That's not all, Inspector Chidi continued. We also have testimony from your former accomplice, Emeka, the driver who tampered with Chief and Mrs. Ngozi Okafor's car 5 years ago, before he died, or rather before he was murdered, probably on your orders. He gave a full confession to a private investigator. We have that confession. And Chidinma said, stepping into the room, we have financial records showing that you've embezzled over 600 million naira from Chief Okafor's accounts over the past 3 years. We've frozen all your offshore accounts. Every single naira will be returned to the Okafor family. Adanna's eyes darted around the room like a trapped animal. Her lawyer had already backed away, distancing himself from his client. This is all fake, Adanna screamed. These are lies, manufactured evidence. I'm being framed. Then perhaps, a deep voice said from the doorway, you can explain it to me directly. Everyone turned and gasps of shock filled the room. Standing in the doorway, very much alive, was Chief Chukwuemeka Okafor. He walked into the room slowly, removing the dark glasses he had worn for 5 years. His eyes were clear, seeing everything and everyone. Kemi and Chidi Jr. stared at their father in disbelief, tears streaming down their faces. Papa, Kemi whispered, Papa, you're alive. Yes, my daughter, I'm alive, and I can see. I've been able to see for 3 months now, long enough to watch the people I trusted try to destroy me. Chief Okafor turned his gaze on Adanna, who stood frozen in shock and horror. Did you really think I was just a foolish old blind man? Did you think I built a billion-naira empire by being stupid? I pretended to be dead so I could see exactly how far your evil went. And Adanna, or should I call you Ada, I've seen everything. Chukwuemeka, Adanna said, her voice suddenly soft and pleading. Please let me explain, I was confused. Obinna manipulated me. I never wanted to hurt you, I love you. We can work this out. Chief Okafor's laugh was bitter and cold. Love, you murdered my first wife. You tried to murder me. You stole from me for years. You got pregnant with my nephew's child and tried to pass it off as mine. And you have the audacity to speak to me about love. He moved closer to her and she backed against the wall. But the worst thing, Adanna, the thing I can never forgive is that you made me doubt everything. You made me question if anyone in this world truly cared for me. You poisoned my trust, my faith in humanity. That's what I can't forgive. Adanna's mask finally cracked completely. The fake tears stopped, the soft voice disappeared, and pure venom took its place. "You self-righteous old fool. Yes, I killed your precious Ngozi. Yes, I tried to kill you. And you know what? I'd do it again. You people with your money, your power, your comfortable lives, you have no idea what it's like to grow up with nothing. I clawed my way out of poverty using the only weapon I had, my beauty and my brain. I've taken down 3 rich men before you, and I would have succeeded with you too if you hadn't been so paranoid." "3 men," Inspector Chitty said sharply. "We only knew about 2. Adanna smiled cruelly. "Oh, there's so much you don't know, Inspector, but you'll never prove any of it. I'm too smart. I always have been." "Actually," Chief Okafor said, "you made one critical mistake. You trusted the wrong people. Your own lawyer, Barrister Okonkwo, has been recording your conversations for the past 6 months. He's been working with Inspector Chitty since you approached him about forging documents to access my Swiss accounts." Barrister Okonkwo, who had been sitting quietly beside Adanna's empty chair, raised his hand. "Every conversation we had is recorded, Mrs. Okafor. Every illegal instruction you gave me. Every crime you asked me to help you commit. You see, I've been friends with Chief Okafor for 30 years. When he told me what you were doing, I couldn't stand by and watch you destroy a good man." Adanna let out a scream of pure rage and lunged toward Chief Okafor, her hands reaching for his throat. But Inspector Chitty's officers grabbed her before she could reach him, forcing her arms behind her back and snapping handcuffs on her wrists. Let me go," she shrieked, thrashing against the officers. "You think you've won, Chukwuemeka? You think this is over? There are people, powerful people who I've worked with, people who won't let you." "People like Dr. Oak," Inspector Chitty interrupted. "He's already been arrested and is cooperating with us, giving us names of everyone in your network. Or perhaps you mean the banker who helped you set up the offshore accounts. He's in custody too. Adanna, your entire operation is being dismantled as we speak. Everyone you've worked with, everyone you've corrupted, everyone you've threatened, they're all talking now." As the officers began to drag Adanna from the room, she turned her head one last time to look at Chief Okafor. The hatred in her eyes was absolute. "You'll regret this. Mark my words. You'll regret letting me live." "I already regret many things," Chief Okafor replied quietly, "but ensuring you face justice isn't one of them." After Adanna was taken away, Chief Okafor turned to his children, who were still standing in shock. Kemi rushed forward first, throwing her arms around her father. "Papa, I can't believe it. I can't believe you're alive. When we got the news, I couldn't breathe. I thought I'd lost you forever." Chitty Jr. joined the embrace, all 3 of them crying and holding each other. "Dad, why didn't you tell us? Why did you let us suffer thinking you were dead?" "Because I had to know the full truth," Chief Okafor explained. "I had to let them think they'd won so they would reveal everyone involved. If I'd exposed myself too early, some of the conspirators would have escaped. I'm sorry, my children. I'm sorry for the pain I caused you, but I promise you it was necessary." "What about Uncle Obinna?" Kemi asked. "Is he really part of this?" "Obinna made terrible choices," Chief Okafor said sadly. "He was manipulated by Adanna, seduced by greed. But unlike her, he has a conscience. He's in the hospital now, under police protection. He was nearly killed last night when Adanna tried to silence him before he could confess. He'll face charges for his role in this, but I believe he genuinely regrets what he did. The court will be more lenient with him because he's cooperating fully with the investigation." Inspector Chitty approached with paperwork. "Chief, we need your formal statement. There's still a lot of work to do to prosecute everyone involved." "Of course, but first, there's someone I need you all to meet." Chief Okafor gestured, and Chidinma stepped forward. Kemi and Chitty Jr. looked at this stranger with confusion. "Children, this is your Aunt Chidinma, your mother's younger sister, who your grandparents told everyone had died years ago. She's been investigating Adanna for 5 years, trying to find justice for your mother. Without her, we wouldn't have half the evidence we have today." Chidinma's eyes filled with tears as she looked at Ngozi's children, now grown. "You look so much like your mother, both of you. She would have been so proud of the people you've become." The family embraced, years of separation and pain finally beginning to heal. "There's one more person," Chief Okafor said. He nodded to Inspector Chidi, who left the room and returned with Amara and little Ngozi. "This is Amara, who worked in our house years ago. She witnessed Adanna poisoning your mother, and she's been living in fear ever since, afraid Adanna would kill her if she spoke up. She's been very brave in coming forward now." Kemi took Amara's hands. Thank you for being brave. Thank you for trying to protect our family." Little Ngozi peeked out from behind her mother, shy but curious. Chief Okafor knelt down to her level. "Hello, Ngozi. That's a very special name. Do you know who you were named after?" The little girl nodded. "Mama says I was named after an angel, a kind lady who helped her when no one else would." "That's right. And because your mother was brave enough to tell the truth, I'm going to make sure you and she never have to worry about anything again. You'll have a home, an education, and all the opportunities you deserve." Over the next few days, the story of Chief Chukwuemeka Okafor's resurrection spread across Nigeria like wildfire. The newspapers called it the greatest deception in Nigerian business history. Social media exploded with discussions about his brilliance in exposing the conspiracy. And everywhere people were talking about Adanna, the Black Widow who had finally been caught. The investigation uncovered even more crimes. Adanna had indeed been involved in 3 other deaths before Ngozi's. 2 wealthy businessmen in South Africa and 1 in Ghana had died under suspicious circumstances after relationships with her. And in each case, she had disappeared with significant amounts of money. Interpol was now involved, coordinating with Nigerian authorities to build cases that would put her in prison for the rest of her life. Dr. Oak confessed to falsifying death certificates and accepted a plea deal in exchange for testimony. The banker who had helped Adanna hide money offshore lost his license and faced prison time. Several lawyers who had helped forge documents were disbarred and arrested. Obinna, recovering from his injuries in a hospital bed under police guard, gave a full confession. He explained how Adanna had seduced him 2 years ago, how she had slowly manipulated him into helping her, how she had promised him wealth and a life together once Chief Okafor was gone. He wept as he described pushing his uncle, thinking it would be just a small injury to explain the old man's later, accidental death. He hadn't known Adanna planned to have him killed once he was no longer useful. "I don't expect forgiveness," Obinna told Chief Okafor when his uncle finally visited him in the hospital. "What I did was unforgivable. You raised me, educated me, treated me like a son, and I betrayed you for money. I deserve whatever punishment I get." Chief Okafor looked at his nephew, seeing the broken young man who had once been a bright, promising boy. "Obinna, you'll face justice. You'll go to prison for what you did, but I want you to know something. When you've served your time, when you've paid your debt to society, there will be a place for you to start again. Not in my businesses, not in a position of trust, but somewhere you can rebuild your life. Because unlike Adanna, you still have a soul. You still have a conscience. And people with consciences deserve second chances." Obinna broke down completely, sobbing like a child. "Thank you, uncle, thank you. I'll spend the rest of my life trying to become worthy of that second chance." 3 months later, Adanna's trial began. The courtroom was packed every single day with people lining up at dawn to get seats. The evidence was overwhelming. Videos, recordings, financial documents, testimonies from accomplices, and the powerful testimony of Amara, who described watching Adanna poison Ngozi over months. Adanna showed no remorse throughout the trial. She sat in the defendant's box with a slight smile, as if the entire proceedings were merely entertainment. When asked if she had anything to say before sentencing, she stood and looked directly at Chief Okafor. "You may have won this battle," she said, "but you've lost so much more. You've lost your trust, your peace of mind, your ability to love without suspicion. You'll spend the rest of your life wondering if anyone truly cares for you or if they're just after your money. In a way, Chukwuemeka, I've destroyed you more completely than if I'd actually killed you. Chief Okafor stood up from his seat in the gallery. You're wrong, Adanna. You didn't destroy me. You revealed yourself. And in doing so, you helped me see what truly matters. My children, my real family, the loyal people who stood by me. You taught me that wealth means nothing without wisdom, that trust must be earned, and that evil, no matter how clever, will eventually face justice. For that lesson, as painful as it was, I thank you. The judge sentenced Adanna to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole for the murder of Ngozi Okafor, plus additional consecutive sentences for attempted murder, fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy. As she was led away in chains, she turned one last time to look at Chief Okafor, and for a brief moment, he saw something in her eyes that might have been regret. But then it was gone, replaced by the same cold calculation she had always worn like a mask. 6 months after Adanna's conviction, Chief Okafor stood in the newly renovated Okafor Textiles factory in Ikja, the same factory where he had started his empire 40 years ago and where he had met Chidinma months before. But now, instead of dust and abandonment, the factory was alive with activity. New machines hummed, workers moved efficiently through production lines, and in the corner, a small school had been set up for workers' children. Beside him stood Kemi, who had moved back to Nigeria to help run the family businesses. Chidi Jr. visited regularly from America, managing the international operations. Chidinma had become part of the family, helping manage the charitable foundation they had established in Ngozi's name. Amara worked as the director of the foundation, using her own experiences to help other women escape abuse and poverty. Little Ngozi attended the best school in Lagos, with Chief Okafor covering all her expenses and setting up a trust fund for her future. Tund had been promoted to Chief Operating Officer of Chief Okafor's Transport Division, with a generous salary increase and shares in the company. Inspector Chidi received a special commendation from the police commissioner and a personal letter of thanks from Chief Okafor. Papa, Kemi said, looking around the factory with pride, you've rebuilt everything, not just the business but our family, our hope. How do you do it? Chief Okafor smiled, his eyes, those eyes that could now see so clearly, looking at his daughter with pure love. My child, I learned something important from all of this. Blindness isn't just about what you can or cannot see with your eyes. It's about what you choose to see with your heart. For 5 years, I was physically blind. But in some ways, I saw more clearly than ever because I had to rely on character, on integrity, on the truth of people's actions rather than their appearances. He paused, looking out over the factory floor. When God gave me back my sight, I thought it was just a medical miracle, but now I understand it was a test to see if I would use my restored vision to seek revenge or to seek justice, to destroy or to rebuild, to hate or to forgive. And which did you choose? Kemi asked softly. I chose justice. I chose to protect my family and innocent people, but I also chose to forgive where forgiveness was possible. Obinna betrayed me terribly, but he's serving his time now, and when he's released, he'll have a chance to start again. That's not weakness, my daughter. That's wisdom. As the sun set over Lagos, Chief Chukwuemeka Okafor stood surrounded by his children, his extended family, and the people whose lives he had touched. He had lost his wife to murder, been betrayed by people he trusted, lost millions of naira to theft, and nearly lost his own life. But he had survived. More than survived, he had triumphed. Not through violence or revenge, but through patience, wisdom, and the courage to face the truth no matter how painful it was. And as he looked at little Ngozi playing with Kemi's children, as he watched Amara laughing with genuine happiness for the first time in years, as he saw his businesses thriving and his family healing, Chief Okafor understood something profound. Adanna had tried to take everything from him, but in the end she had given him something far more valuable, the ability to see clearly, not just with his restored sight, but with his restored soul. The ability to distinguish between gold and glitter, between love and manipulation, between family and parasites. "Papa, what are you thinking about?" Chitty Jr. asked, joining his father and sister. Chief Okafor put his arms around both his children. "I'm thinking that I'm a wealthy man. Not because of the money I have, but because of the family I've been given, the truth I've discovered, and the justice I've witnessed. And I'm thinking that your mother, wherever she is finally at peace knowing that her murder has been avenged and her children are safe." That night, as Chief Okafor prepared for bed, he stood at his window looking out at the Lagos skyline. He said a prayer for his late wife Ngozi, thanking her for the years of love they had shared. He said a prayer for Adanna, asking God to touch whatever remained of her humanity. And he said a prayer of gratitude for the gift of sight, both physical and spiritual, that had saved his life and restored his family. The story of Chief Chukwuemeka Okafor became legend in Nigeria. Business schools taught it as a case study in corporate security and family protection. Churches used it as an example of wisdom and forgiveness. And for years afterward, whenever someone spoke of betrayal and justice, they would say, "Remember what Chief Okafor did. He turned his blindness into vision and his death into resurrection." And in a maximum security prison, Adanna sat in her cell, finally understanding what she had lost. Not Chief Okafor's money she could have stolen elsewhere, but the opportunity to be loved by a good man, to be part of a real family, to live a life with honor instead of deception. That realization, coming too late, was the greatest punishment of all. Justice had been served, truth had prevailed, and though scars remained, the Okafor family had emerged stronger, wiser, and more united than ever before. So what did you think? Would you have done what Chief Okafor did, pretending to be dead to expose the truth? Or would you have confronted the betrayers immediately? And let's be honest, have you ever had to test someone's loyalty in your own life? Share your story in the comments below. This story teaches us that sometimes patience is the most powerful weapon, that wisdom is more valuable than revenge, and that true family isn't defined by blood but by loyalty and love. If this story touched your heart, if it made you think, if it reminded you that justice always wins in the end, then please hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and share this video with someone who needs to hear this message. We have more powerful African stories coming your way, stories that will make you cry, make you think, and remind you of what truly matters in life. Remember, when you feel blind to the truth around you, ask God for the vision to see clearly. And when you discover betrayal, respond with wisdom, not just emotion. Until the next story, stay blessed, stay wise, and always remember, the truth always comes to light. Thank you for watching.